Hey everybody, how are you tonight? Dr. Stephanie Stroud with Cornerstone's Pet Tip of the Week. So tonight we are talking about your pet's first aid kit. And so my first question is, do you have one? If not, you need to get one. And number two, want to make sure if you do have one, want to make sure we have some of these essentials. Now there's lots of different things that you can keep in your pet's first aid kit, but I'm just going to go over some basics that you for sure want to have in there, okay? So the number one thing that you need to keep in your pet's first aid kit would be paperwork. I know that kind of sounds weird, but the paperwork that I'm going to tell you to keep in there is really important. So in an emergency crisis, or when you're freaking out and something's happened to your pet, the last thing you want to do is be looking for your emergency veterinarian phone number. You don't want to be looking for the local police's phone number. Pet poison control, none of those do you want to be looking at in the middle of a crisis. So best thing to do is to make an index card and put your veterinarian, your emergency veterinarian if there is a separate hospital in your town, and then your local police, as well as the pet poison hotline. I would keep all of those numbers in your first aid kit. As well, I would keep all that on a second index card that you also keep in your wallet. So having those numbers is going to be vital for you as part of your guys' first aid kit. The other things with the paperwork that I would recommend including in there is any major diagnostics that were done as far as invoices and paperwork as for medical conditions that your pet has, as well as the vaccine history for your pets. Those are all things you want to keep in there. So the number one thing that you want to make sure is in your first aid kit is the proper paperwork. Okay. Number two that I would keep in there is make sure you keep a thermometer in there. Not every time your pet is injured is your veterinarian or someone going to ask you to take your pet's temperature, but in the case that you need to get a temperature, you want to make sure you have that. As far as the specific type of thermometer, you can actually use the same type of thermometer for your pets as you do in us, just a digital thermometer. We do end up taking that rectally, which is why we don't always recommend you guys take them, because we don't want the animal to get upset with you. But you can just use a regular digital thermometer that we use for ourselves, and then I would recommend labeling it dog or cat only or pet only, so that you guys don't mistakenly use it, because you don't want to transfer anything as far as that goes. So that's number two, is keeping a thermometer in there. Number three that you want to keep in there is bandages. Okay, if your pet gets injured and they're bleeding, you want to make sure that you can bandage them up until you can get to your veterinarian. Okay, so what type of bandages? So you can use anything from gauze to clean rags to even sometimes a clean sock. If you don't have bandages or you don't want to go purchase them, using those things to kind of wrap up any wounds. And then you can use non-adhesive tape, or what we call vet wrap, to kind of secure it in place until you can get to a place where your veterinarian or your emergency veterinarian can take a look at that. With small, very teeny little bleeds, such as if you're clipping your pet's nails and they're bleeding a little bit, you can keep a little bit of flour. You can actually put the flour on that to stop the bleeding. But that's with very minor bleeds. When we're talking about lacerations or anything like that, you do want to put bandages on there and get to your veterinarian just as soon as you can. Next thing that I would recommend keeping in there are artificial tears. Okay, so if your dog gets pollen, or they get smoke, or they get some type of debris in their eye, you can rinse that out with artificial tears, just the normal artificial tears that you can get from CVS or Walmart or Walgreens, just like we wash our eyes out. Those are the same things you want. Again, if your pet is continuing to pollen that, then you need to go ahead and bring them to your veterinarian. But artificial tears is an excellent thing to keep in your pet's first aid kit. Next on the list would be sterile water. Okay, so water can be used not only for drinking, but it can kind of flush wounds out. So let's say you needed to bandage the wound up, but there's lots of debris in there. Go ahead and rinse it off with that water, and then wrap it and bring it to your veterinarian. So sterile water, I'd keep a gallon with your pet's first aid kit so you can easily get to it. On the same token, collapsible food, collapsible water bowls are all great things to keep in there, along with that sterile water in case you're on a trip and you need something to give them in the middle of a crisis. You have some there. The last big one I would talk to you about, actually there's two big ones that are left. The next one I would talk about is proper things to restrain. So our pets love us, we love our pets, but when our pets are in pain or they're hurt, they unintentionally can strike at us, okay? None of our pets is just going to come bite us for the heck of it. But if they're painful and we're trying to bandage a wound or something that hurts, they may end up trying to bite you, and we do not want that. And so proper restraint, what does that look like? So what I typically recommend is getting a towel or a throw blanket that you can kind of pick them up like a taco, or what I call a kitty or doggy burrito. So that's an excellent way to kind of pick them up without actually touching them where it hurts. Okay, so that's one way you can do it. I also recommend, if you have dogs or cats, keep a muzzle in there for this size. Again, it's not because they are intentionally trying to hurt you, but it's because they hurt. And if you're anything like me, when you're hurt, you can get grumpy. I get grumpy when I'm hurt. And so our pets do the same things, only they can't always use the words, so sometimes they use their teeth. And so we want to keep them safe and protected, but we also want to keep you guys safe and protected. So I absolutely recommend keeping a muzzle or what I call a party hat for your pets in with your first aid kit while you're trying to treat them and get them to the point where they need to get veterinary care. The last one that I recommend is treats, okay? And that may seem kind of bizarre, but sometimes just distracting our pets while we're trying to mess with them or look at something, distracting them with a treat that they really love can be an excellent way to kind of calm anxiety so that you can actually take a look at what you're needing to take a look at. Now, if that doesn't work, again, we go back to the previous tip and say we need to restrain them, and sometimes that may mean a slip leash or putting a muzzle on them, okay, until you can get them transported safely. But those are all things that I would recommend keeping in your first aid kit. Again, there's other things that you can keep in there, but those would definitely be some of the top ones that we want. Again, your first aid kit is designed for you to help quickly stabilize your pet in an emergency, but you should always call your veterinarian and discuss with them what happened to make sure that you don't need further care and see whether you should actually need to come in for further care. We don't want any of your pets to stay hurt. We want them to live long, happy, healthy lives. And so we, as veterinarians, are here to help team up with you to do that. So, all right, you guys have a happy Monday, and we'll talk to you later. All right, bye-bye.